Hey everybody, accomplished the impossible here today with a quick little fix on a problem I have been getting a lot of questions on my Discord channel and in the radio world of things. My other videos on YouTube, I go over the XTS 3000, how to program it, what it is, the thing's a brick, you throw it at somebody, they could probably die. This thing is huge. It's a good radio. It's tough. I've swapped out some faceplates on my original black ones, so I got like yellow and blue, and you could be all fancy and add different colors. If you feel good enough to take it apart, they are a pain in the butt to take apart. But this radio is going to be on a problem I have been having in the Discord channel with everybody that's an amateur user that wants to use the XTS 3000 to talk to a Raspberry Pi top hat like the MMDVM Pi Star system. And this also affects the open spots. So if you're using any kind of digital P25 top hat for a Pi or an open spot system, and for whatever reason you just can't get the radio to key up the Raspberry Pi, or the top hat on the Raspberry Pi, it's just not working. You know all your frequencies are set correctly. Nothing you do is keying that up. This is likely the problem. Um, these radios are old as hell. They are probably over 10 years old. Very old radios. And while they're very durable, they are all every radio is every radio is every radio will eventually come down to every radio will eventually have the issue of drifting. What is drifting? Drifting is when you transmit on a frequency and that frequency is not what it is actually set to be. So let's say I'm talking on 462.000. In the radio, it could be 462.0500. Well, radio to radio, that won't be a problem. They'll still be able to communicate. It can be a problem when you're talking to the open spot or the Raspberry Pi, because it does require a fine a bit error rate and a fine frequency, a very specific frequency going into the Pi. Otherwise, it will not hear your radio, it won't light up, and boom, you don't talk to your Raspberry Pi. How do we fix this? All right. Two ways of fixing it. The least expensive way of fixing it is a RTL-SDR from Amazon. This guy will run you about 30 bucks. Get one today. They're pretty cheap. They're good to have if you're in any kind of radio hobby or you do radios commercially, hobby, whatever. Have this in your pocket. Take it with you wherever you go. It is a all mode, all band receiver. It only does analog, but it will get you out of a issue like this, or you can test other radios or other people's radios for very, very little cost. Doesn't require you to have some big ol' site analyzer system. I have one of those. That's what I also check my radios with, where I found the problem. But this is just a great little thing to have for $30 to $40. Put it in your pocket, put it in your backpack when you go out and do whatever you need to do with radios. It is just a great little backup tool to have for any scenario. It's very good. Its receive is just on point. It's got maybe 0.00001 of an error when I compared it to when I tested it on my HP analyzer. So good thing to have. If you are going to buy one of these, I would definitely recommend get one of these, because more than likely the age that these radios are in, you're going to need one. So you're going to need this. You're going to need the RTL-SDR software. We'll go over that here in a second. And then you are also going to need the XTS programming software and the tuner software. So if anybody out there that downloaded the XTS programming software and didn't download the tuner software, go back and download the tuner software. And then you're also going to need the XTS programming cable, which is, you got to have that to program it anyways. So if you have an XTS 3000, you should have a programming cable. If you are not familiar with programming the radio or how to set up the radio for programming, stop the video, go back to my other videos where it shows how to program an XTS 3000. So let's get this started. Okay, so once you have your radio, your cable, and your computer fired up, you're going to need to connect your cable to the RS-232 port on your laptop, or if it has a RS-232 port built into the laptop or XP computer, good on you. That's the better way to do it. Okay, so when you download the software, you are going to have two programs, Astra Radio Tuner and the Astra Saber programming software. We want to use the tuner. So we're going to double click that. As you can see, it will open up and it looks a lot like the programming software, but it's not. Anyway, to read the radio needs to be on. Like I said, it needs to be plugged into the programming cable and it needs to have the antenna on. We're not going to mess with the antenna. Antenna will stay on the radio. So you're going to hit read. This is going to take a while, and this is going to pull all of the tuning specs and details on the radio itself. And we will go through that when it pops up. Doesn't take too long. Okay, so here is all we have. We're going to hit the drop down here, and we're going to see a couple little items here. Radio information is just showing the serial number, code plug, and the model number. Nothing we can do there. And we want to drop down the transmitter alignment menu, and we want to go to reference. And as you can see, the radio here shows 469.650. That is the frequency. The soft spot value is set, and then we have the new soft spot value. So the frequency in megahertz is what this tuning software is going to use to tell you if the actual center frequency of the radio or the reference frequency is set correctly. The reference frequency is what the radio uses to align all the other frequencies itself. If your reference frequency is off, the entire radio will be off, including receive. So don't worry about 469.650. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, that's not the frequency I'm having issues with. Right, we're not tuning the frequency you're having issues with. We're tuning the entire radio. So we're going to be messing with this particular thing. So the radio soft spot value is the value of the radio that is currently set. This is important because if we make adjustments in here and we forget what our original value was, we can always revert back to 144. Push to talk will toggle the transmit on and off, and program will set the new soft spot value to the radio soft spot value. So if we program this, we will notice that this will change. So that is really all we need to know for this particular portion. I'm going to be swapping between screens here, so just give me a second and we'll get this taken care of. Okay, so when you plug in your RTL-SDR, there is a program called AirSpy SDR. We will find that by going to our search bar and typing in SDR, and then you will see sdrsharp.exe. If you don't have this program, you can download the from the URL or the website, which is sdrsharp.com, and you should see the software option at the top. I will also link that in the description for that software. Software is free, so you don't have to worry about it. Okay, so once it's open, we got a couple of things we got to do. We got to tell this software what we're going to be using. So we're going to click the three little bars over here. We're going to go to source, and we're going to hit the drop down, and we're going to go to our RTL-SDR USB. All right, cool. So it is now in the it is now seeing the USB dongle, and what we're gonna do here is we're just gonna put in some radio stations just to show that this in fact works. So we're gonna do. I got a couple of radio stations in the 100 area. Here's 100.5. So let's see what happens. All right, there's a radio station right here. Turn this down all the way. So this right here is a radio station. This is on, let me see where this is. If we use the mouse scroll, we can actually scroll over to the particular channel to see what that is. And it looks like we're at like 105.3. And if I turn on my mic, that is a Um, that is definitely a station of some sort. If it matters, it's not particularly important to us, but what you can do is you can tell it that you want to be in FM mode. So we're going to go narrow FM, which is NF. If we expand this, we can see narrow FM. That's what we want. And if I hit play here, oh, that was wide FM. My apologies. Okay, so that's wide FM. I don't know if y'all can hear that, but that is a radio station clear as day. Okay, so the internal frequency that we're going to be referencing is 469.650. So what we're going to do is we're going to adjust that up here to 469.469.650. Okay. And this is also, again, my SDR dongle is using antenna, and I have my radio on the programming cable with the antenna on it. We're not directly into the SDR. You don't want to do that because you'd run the risk of blowing out the receiver on the SDR. Antenna to antenna is fine. So we're going to toggle the PTT. All right. So we're going to see these spikes. This is our reference frequency here. So we need we're going to detoggle that, or untoggle. We're going to zoom in a little bit and get a better view of what's going on. Toggle again. And we're starting to actually see where the issue lies. So we're going to toggle again. And there we go. And I think here, turn my range down a little bit. Toggle. Gonna go more zoom. Okay, there we go. Now, here's where we're gonna be hitting the bread and butter on this one. So, again, our radio, when we hit push to talk toggle, notice that my red line is right on the center frequency of 469.650. But when I toggle, my peak is not on 469.650, which means that this is the issue we are running into when we try to key up the Raspberry Pi. So it's a very easy fix. What we're going to do is we're going to hit push to talk toggle, and we're going to adjust these little arrow up and down buttons until we get that landed as close as we can to the center frequency, which in this case is probably going to be, looks like 151. We can really go closer on this if we really want to zero this thing in. There's 150. I'm going to say 151 looks way better. So we'll go with that. We're going to untoggle. Zoom out just a hair. I don't need that anymore. And that is really all we're going to do to tune this thing up. So now you can see we're actually right where we need to be. We're right on 469.650. It's pretty much zeroed in where we need it. And we're going to turn that off. And then now we know where we want it. So over here on 144, where it says 144 radio soft spot value, the new soft spot value we set to 151, we're just going to hit program. So now this radio is set to this tuning specification on the internal frequency, on the internal reference. Okay, so generally my experience, us doing this is enough to get the radio tuned and aligned and ready to go. If you really want to go overkill and try to check this thing on all of its frequencies, you can repeat the same process for other tabs here. So for example, if we go to TX Power High, and let's say you're not convinced that I did the right thing, and you just want to go to like the 463 frequency, which for example is the closest frequency we can get to GMRS. So what we're going to do, just to make sure that's okay, is we're going to set the SDR to the same frequency. So we want 463, so we're going to hit that down. 463.7, so that's going to go to 7, and then this is going to go to 0. 463.700.700.000. You want to make sure you have it at 463.700.000. Very important. It'll be off if you don't have that. So we know that's the right frequency for us to receive on. That's what our channel is going to be set. We're going to hit the green and we're going to hit push to talk toggle. And we're a little off on that, but it's not bad. So if we adjust our tuning a little bit, sometimes you can actually get her to move over to where she needs to be, but in this case, not so much. So I wouldn't be too worried about this. These don't often line up on these radios. It's close enough to where it's still going to key up that frequency. So I think we should be good. Like I said, I've I've aligned 5 or 6 radios with this issue, and all of them have worked without messing with this TX power high and TX power low. So we're gonna detoggle that. Goes back to green. By the way, green is not active, red is active. And then you can go through here and check other ones if you just want to go ahead and double check the radio to make sure it's doing what it's supposed to. And everybody seems like they want to call me right now. I don't know why. It's always when I'm making a movie or a video of some sort. It's crazy. Anyway, so that's pretty much all we got to do. It's not like the Astros. This isn't like the CPS programming software. Once we hit program, we're good to go. So what we're gonna do is we're happy with this. We're gonna hit close. We're happy with the reference frequency being at 151, and then just to double check that, we'll do 1469. 469.65000. All right. So we'll just give her another little push to talk, and boom, we are right on center frequency. Guys, I do want to mention this is definitely a hobby fix for this. I would not recommend doing this commercially on an actual radio and using an SDR as your zeroing method or center frequency. If you're going to do this commercially, this needs to be done by your local dealer or a dealer that actually has the correct equipment, like an Aeroflex, that does this, for commercial reasons. And it's just, you only want to do this for hobby use. You don't want to do this for anything other than that. This isn't a guarantee it's going to work. This is just the best practice I have had. If you have, I've also seen it happen to where people have grabbed an SDR laying around their house for a couple of years and it's not zeroed in correctly. So be sure to buy one just to be sure. I hope this video helps. If you guys have any other questions about basic tuning, we can go into a little bit more in depth on my actual HP test set to show you how it works and how to adjust other things. I don't really feel like that's needed. But if you're having the Raspberry Pi issue or the open hotspot issue, this should help everything. And it should get you going. And then after this, like I said, you're just going to close this guy here, and then your radio will jump out of 1CSQ mode and jump into the back into the regular daily broadcast. I will say that there is a caveat to this. Sometimes I have been tuning the radio and I will be adjusting my internal reference frequency and it will say, give me a warning screen that says radio is not responding. In that scenario, what you do is you just turn off the radio, turn it back on. Even though you're in 1CSQ mode, it's not going to brick the radio because it's not actively being programmed or uploading data or downloading data. It's only an issue if you hit push to talk or program and then you turned it off, then you would have an issue. But if it shows up and says radio not responsive and you can't dekey the radio, just turn it off, turn it back on, and it'll resolve the problem. So like I said, hope that helps. And if you guys want to see other videos about the XTS 3000 legendary old radios, just put it in the comments. Hope you all have a good day. Bye.